Hey, how's it going? This is Michael Arana of the Arana Nation. And tonight I just want to discuss why I feel that this upcoming election in Canada that will be taking place in October between Justin tacky and Mackdaddy Trudeau, provided he doesn't get thrown in jail before then, Andrew Scheer, Jagmeet Singh, and Elizabeth May and Maxime Bernier, why that election that's coming up is on track to looking like the election of 1972 in Canada between the Mackdaddy's alleged father, Pierre Trudeau, former Nova Scotia Premier Robert Stanfield, uh, former NDP leader David Lewis, and former leader of the now defunct Social Credit Party, Réal Coulette. I say this because that election, I mean, the same sort of things that are happening now are the same sort of things that happened back then, which culminated in this result that you see before you. Now, this is a map of Canada of the 1972 Canadian federal election. The blue represents the seats that the then called Progressive Conservatives won. The red represents the seats that the Liberals won. And the orange represents the seats that the NDP won, and the green represents the seats that the Social Credit won. As you can see, the Conservatives did very well in this election, but Pierre Trudeau ultimately won that election, and he won that election by only 2 seats. Now, for those of you who aren't aware how we elect leaders in Canada, it's unlike the United States where people directly vote for one person or another. In Canada, we elect members of parliament, just like in America, people elect congressmen. And the political party that has the most members of parliament, the leader of that party will more than likely become prime minister. And I say more than likely because there could be times where it's a minority and he has more seats, but combined, other parties would have more seats, and then they could gang up on the person, and that's just a bunch of confusion. But that's how it is. Now, let me tell you about the election of 1972, and then I'll tell you why I believe 2019 is going to be exactly like that. That's how I feel it's going to be. So, as I already said, this was an election that had Pierre Trudeau in it, the Mackdaddy's alleged father. He was prime minister, elected in the previous election in 1968. And back in 1968, everybody loved Pierre Trudeau, just like everybody loved, well, almost everybody loved the Mackdaddy. In fact, more people loved Pierre Trudeau back then than they did the Mackdaddy in 2015. Many people who are alive now, who are old, and who probably hate Justin, many of them more than likely voted for Pierre. I mean, he was just a megastar in Canada. Trudeau mania. And to prove it, you'll see how that election ended up. The red represents the seats that the Liberals, under the leadership of Pierre Trudeau, I mean, it was a wipeout. Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, BC. I mean, the Liberals almost never win in BC. It's usually NDP and Conservative, but they won big, big, big time. So it was a thing. But, when that whole starstruck stuff broke off, and people started to mature and grow up in Canada, you Canucks, when they started to mature, they realized the big mistake that they made, and the economy started going bad. Youth unemployment was ridiculous. I mean, most young people voted for Pierre, and they were very disappointed because the youth unemployment when in his premiership was extremely bad, and he started to lose his popularity. Trudeau mania was just like how the Mackdaddy, he's losing his popularity. People began to heckle Pierre at his rallies. The West hated him because, I mean, just in the Mackdaddy Trudeau, Pierre was dividing the country. I mean, trying to pit Quebec against Alberta. He was more preferential towards the central Canada, and Western Canada felt extremely alienated, and they were pissed at him. So they punished him in 1972, and the country pretty much did punish him, except for one difference. And Pierre Trudeau would have not won in 72 had it not been for the right. Now, the Canadian right is very good at running this country, but they suck at trying to win elections. With the Liberals, it's opposite. Liberals historically in Canada are very good at winning elections, but they suck at leading this country. It's different with the Conservatives. And one of the biggest problems that the right in Canada has is they just constantly divide amongst themselves. They love to divide. They love to fight amongst themselves. I mean, they just love it. Sometimes they fight amongst themselves more than they fight the opposition. It's just it's a stupid habit that they have. Just like now, you got the Conservatives and the PPC. I mean, I'm telling you, you got people in the Conservative Party and the PPC, which Maxime Bernier started. You got people in these parties who are more concerned with trying to tear up people from the PPC or the Conservatives than they are trying to tear up this Liberal Party, which is corrupt, which is treacherous, and neglectful. I mean, can you imagine that? That is the one problem that the Canadian right in this country have. And it never suits them. It constantly ends up stabbing them in the back. The right constantly shoot themselves in the foot. And it's not just this election. It happened in the election of 1965, when the right was bitterly divided, and as a result, John Diefenbaker was prevented from being prime minister in an election he would have won. 1963, the same thing, same exact thing. The right divided, amongst themselves. I mean, in this election, the right wasn't only divided, but the Social Credit, which was a right-wing party, and I could consider myself a Social Credit conservative, but they were divided. You got Western Social Credit and you had Quebec Social Credit. Same thing in the election of 1962 and 1997 and 1978. The right, stupid and foolish, just constantly shooting themselves in elections that they could win. And it happened in 72, and look at the result. The Progressive Conservatives got 107 seats. Social Credit got 15. The Liberals got 109. Pierre Trudeau won that election with only 2 seats because of the stupid right. The stupid right. And I know it's going to trigger a lot of people. I don't care about your feelings. Stupid. And the reason why I say that 72 is going to look like 2019 is going to look like 72 is because as of recent, we've been seeing the polls going really bad for the Liberals. I mean, for a long time, they were just ahead. You see it right here. They were just, whatever. But now it's closing in. A lot of it has to do with, Canucks waking up. I have said that there are more people in Canada who want to get rid of Trudeau than there are people that want him to stay. But the question will remain, not whether he has more supporters, because he doesn't. It's if the right is going to shoot themselves again. And if you see this latest poll here, 2,122 sample size, all this stuff. The PPC have 5%. It's more likely that everybody in the world will be struck by lightning within 1 hour simultaneously than it will be for the PPC to even come close to winning even a minority government. But the question will be, will they hurt the Conservatives? Right now, the poll has them at 32%, 5%. You add that up together, It's 37%, a very small lead. Would be a minority government. And it might not even be a minority because, yeah, the popular vote would be close, but then the seat vote would be a lot wider because that's how it usually is. So that's the concern that I have. And I'm saying this as an independent, but I'm a smart independent. I usually go for one of the more major parties because they're the ones that are more likely to win. The only time I ever veer away from the major parties is if I feel that none of the leaders come close to my point of view. Now, I'm not saying Scheer is perfect. I supported Bernier in the leadership election. But you know something? I hate this tacky-headed Mackdaddy, son of Satan, straight from the pit of hell, Justin Trudeau, more than I am concerned about Andrew Scheer. And I'm just going to come out and say it. As an independent, I'm going to be endorsing the Conservatives. And y'all can unsubscribe all you want. That's fine. Go run to your safe space. That's fine. I mean, you can choose to, those who are choosing to be PPC supporters. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what I feel is right and sensible. Um, I think that if Bernier is so determined to have his own party, maybe the Conservatives and the PPC could have a Italian style coalition like they have in Italy or something. But right now, the only thing stopping the Conservatives from winning is the right. It's not the Liberal. He does not have the support. He just doesn't. Now, people might be saying, well, you're an independent. Why not support the NDP? Well, the NDP destroy every community that they touch. And the Greens, give me a break. I can't support the Bloc because I'm not in Quebec. But you see, these polls here, they and the ones as of recent, going back to even December, it just leads me to believe that 1972 is going to repeat itself, where we came close to getting rid of a slimy prime minister, but because the opposition was so stupid and foolish and bumbling and incompetent, it didn't happen. Same thing happened in 97, but this, I believe, really, really, really is deja vu. So take a good long look at this map and really, really think about what you're going to do. I mean, you know, I'm not telling you what to do. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. People are free to make their own decision. But as far as I'm concerned, when I see that my country has become a place where big businesses can commit crimes and the government will protect them because that business gives them a lot of money, and when I see my country turning into a place where people can come to this nation illegally from the United States, no matter what, and the government actually helps and aids people to do that, when I see my country give $10 million to a terrorist who killed two soldiers, when I see my country give free dental care, free laptops, free housing to refugees when Canadians don't get any of that, then I am going to do whatever it takes to get rid of a government that is responsible for all of that wickedness, even if it means supporting somebody who may not have been my first choice, but is 10 trillion times better than what we have now. And as I've said before, I am not completely closing off to the PPC, but this time I ain't supporting them. If Andrew Scheer somehow were to win and he ends up doing rubbish or doing absolutely nothing and he's a disappointment, hey, I would go to the PPC. But I'm a free citizen and I am saying that I am making my democratic choice to endorse the Conservatives. Not because I am a conservative, but I'm a very wise, independent voter who wants to see this country go back to sanity and rip this country away from the son of Satan himself, Justin the Tacky Mackdaddy Trudeau. This is the Iran